Welcome to the Rebound Rundown. I'm your host, Paul Fritschner. This is your daily digest college basketball show that covers everything you need to know about your favorite team. From game previews to recaps to press conferences and breakdowns, we have you covered. Every Monday through Friday with your morning commute, wherever you get your podcast, and make sure you subscribe on YouTube. Welcome into another episode of the Rebound Rundown. I'm your host, Paul Fritschner. Make sure if you're watching this on YouTube, you go down and you hit the subscribe button. And if you're listening in audio form, you subscribe wherever you're listening right now. Up here today at Millett Hall on the campus of Miami University in Oxford, Ohio, I am joined by the head coach of the RedHawks, Travis Steele. Travis, it's great to catch up with you. It's been a little while since you and I have been able to talk and to get together and to really talk about these things. And it's great to see you. And I just want to start by saying I appreciate you taking some time today to sit down for this.
Absolutely. It's great to see you as well, and appreciate you having us on.
Yeah. So let's start here because you guys had a spectacular season this year, and I want to make sure people appreciate what you all did in your third year as the head coach. So you went 25-9 this season. You lost to Akron in the MAC title game, but it was the first MAC title game appearance for Miami since 2007. 25 wins, that's the most in program history. 14 MAC wins, that's the most since the 2006 season. And you set a record for the most consecutive home wins in a single season at 15. It was a record-setting year here in Oxford. So congratulations on that. And what are you most excited about coming off of that season, heading into this offseason? You were telling me practice starts tomorrow for next season already. So what makes you most excited about what you did this year and all those accomplishments?
Yeah, I think just building it. The first 2 years, it's funny, I talked to one of our former players the other day on he's playing overseas. His name's Anderson Marambo. And I said, hey, just so you know, man, you're a big part of the season we just had. Even though you weren't on the team, our first 2 years, we kind of laid the foundation. Listen, I was excited for our guys. It was a fun journey this past year. And that's what it's all about, is not necessarily the final result, but like embracing that journey. We have a great group of guys. We had a lot of fun. Even when there was a game where maybe we lost, like we lost at Akron, it felt like we got beat by 1,000,000. In that game, we were 6-0. They were 6-0 in league play. I wasn't even mad at our guys. Listen, they still played hard. Our guys always play the right way. They try to execute to the best of their abilities. They bring it every single day in practice. They do everything I ask. So it was a blast to coach them. Obviously, it ended in a great result. We had 25 wins and set some records. And unfortunately, we didn't quite make the ultimate goal there. We lost at the last second against Akron. But, man, it doesn't take away from an incredible journey that our team had this past year.
Yeah, to look at it from the positive perspective of what happened when you played Akron the first time. I remember sitting there before the MAC title game, and I was going back through KenPom and everything, and I'm looking back at the box score from that first Akron game, and I'm thinking to myself, man, Travis and the RedHawks, they're going to have a real big hill to climb to get over this. And then you're watching the game. You're up a lot. I'm not trying to open a wound here. I'm talking about the game flow of how it happened. Have you?
Yeah.
Are you somebody that goes back and you watches, or you're never watching it again?
Yeah, I watch it. You got to own it.
Yeah.
It's funny. I told our guys after that game in the locker room, I said, fellas, listen, in a month and a half, we're going to play Akron in the championship game, and we're going to look a heck of a lot different. To be honest with you, we weren't ready for that moment. I don't think at that point in the season, there was a lot of buzz going around. They were 6-0, we were 6-0, and Miami hadn't been. It's been a while since we've been good, a long while. And Akron's used to that. They've been good for the last 10, 15 years. They've been one of the predominant teams in our league. And so you could tell they were a little bit more ready for that game. Our guys we dipped our toe in the water a little too much. And give Akron credit. They made shots. They played great. We didn't make shots, and we played poorly. So it was a little bit of a perfect storm. But we were much more ready, obviously, for that game in the MAC championship game than we were back in January.
Sure. And I think one of the things that really sticks out about this past season being year 3 for you is that you look at year 1 and you had 12 wins on the season. This year you had 14 MAC wins.
Just so you know, Paul, that was a really really long year.
That was
Listen, I prepared myself going into year one, saying, "Hey, listen, like we read it. We always choose a book for the summer.
Okay.
So we chose Energy Bus.
Okay.
And just how to stay positive, because I knew I was bracing myself. It was we weren't the most talented team. Okay. We had good kids. We had a couple good players, but it was, 12 wins. It was a long year.
Had growing pains.
It was yeah, you could say that. You could say that.
So you had 12 wins, and like I said, you had 2 more MAC wins this year than you had total wins. In year one, you finished 268 on KenPom. Year two, you're a little better, 15 wins and 257 on KenPom. Yep. But this year, 25 wins, 146th on KenPom. That's your best finish on KenPom as a program since you were 143rd in 2010. Effective field goal percentage, that was 26th best nationally this year. We'll get to that in a second, but to go back to building for year three, you talked since day one about building for year three. You felt like this was the year, right? And I know you come up a little short in the MAC title game, but very clearly you hit all of your expectations and probably surpassed some going into this season. So what was it about year three that gave you so much confidence?
Yeah, I think when I took it over, David Saylor, athletic director, and President Crawford, I told them both, listen, this is going to be a legit rebuild. And sometimes it's easier. Like we're building a house right now, Amanda and I are, and it's easier sometimes just to knock that sucker down, right, and just start over fresh.
Yeah.
Get a great foundation, lay it, rather than trying to, a money pit. You see some houses, you got to kind of constantly, redo things. And they let me do that here. All right. And so they let me start from scratch. And I knew every decision we made since I got here has always been about year three and forward. We weren't going to do any short-term decisions that were maybe better for us in the short term, but hurt us in the long term. And they allowed me to do that, like I said. So I give our administration a lot of credit. But we developed our culture. We've recruited to it. We have guys that fit Miami. We lean right into it. We embrace it, who we are. It's an academic school. It's an original public Ivy school. So, we need guys that value education and families that value it. And we recruit to our 4 core values. And we don't deviate from that at all. I don't care how talented a guy is. And so I've known, listen, we played freshmen a lot my second year. We played 5 of them, which nobody's doing really in college basketball in this landscape, right? Everybody's get old, stay old. Yeah. So I knew we'd take some lumps even in year 2. We were better than year 1, but, not where we wanted to be. And then obviously this past year, it really paid off because we had a lot of experience on our roster.
You did, and you had a player in Cam Kraft who you had a connection with at Xavier, and he finds his way here to Oxford, had a spectacular season, very talented shooter. His scoring really elevated the team this year. Every time I watched a Miami game this year and I watched Cam succeed, to me that felt really good. I was very happy for Cam, and it was fun to watch him play. It had to be fun to coach him.
Yeah, great kid, great young man. Happy for him. Again, that's like I told him, everybody's journey is unique in life, and he's paving his own way. Sometimes life throws you a curveball. Maybe you got to keep swinging, right? And he did. He came here. I thought he had a great year for us. He was one of the better scorers in our league. He obviously had a game over 40 points against Toledo, which was, he looked like video game mode out there. He's a game changer, and I wish him nothing but success here moving forward at Georgia Tech.
Yeah, so he transferred to Georgia Tech, and we'll get into that more as we talk about the roster for next season. But to finish up and kind of put a bow on what you guys did this past season, I mentioned the effective field goal percentage. I know that's kind of getting in the weeds of the stats and everything, but just from a broad perspective of the offense, it just goes to show what you all were able to do offensively this year when you finished there 26th in the country. What was so different and so good about your offense this season?
We play really fast. We're very random. We don't really run a lot of set plays. We'll run set plays on dead ball situations, but we try to play in more conceptual concepts, a lot of space, read, react. So we're hard to scout. And when you have that much skill that we have out there and the guys, the shot makers that we have, we can shoot 1 through 5. Our 5 shoot the ball. And when you have that much space on the floor, man, it leads to a lot of great results. So we have really good players.
Sure. Travis, you look back to your time at Xavier, and you spent almost 15 years there, director of basketball operations in 2008, assistant coach, associate head coach. It's no secret things at Xavier didn't end the way that you would have hoped that they did, but you have come up the road here and you have found your footing here at Miami. And I'm really curious what you feel like you learned through that whole process and where you feel like you are now versus where you were March of 2022.
Yeah, I think you're constantly growing, having that growth mindset. I think whether it's, you learn through every experience that you go through, whether it's good or bad, right? Whether it's good or bad. I think that's what the really successful people can take things from that. I know exactly how we want to run our program. I know what I want it to feel like, smell like, every single day.
Sure.
Our core values, we recruit to them. Like I said, I think hiring's everything. I'm not talking necessarily just hiring with your staff, but also hiring basically players, right? And that's the way today's landscape is essentially, unfortunately. But you got to get the guys that fit. Fit is everything. Fit is everything. And you got to find guys you can lose with first before you can really win. And that's what we've done here. Like I said, we've really leaned into Miami. I know who I am. I think one of the biggest rules in life is you got to know thyself. So I've really surrounded myself with a tremendous staff. They deserve all the credit. Our players do. I'm just they're giving me a lot of joy and a lot of happiness just being along for the ride.
Sure. Were there things that you felt like when you came up here to Miami offensively that you wanted to do different that you felt like maybe didn't work before that you're trying to implement now?
Yeah, I would say we play faster. We got a lot of skill. And that's what we've recruited. But we play a lot of concepts, which is really fun.
Yeah.
It's a fun way to play, but you got to have high IQ, skilled guys, versatile guys, which we have. We're probably much more complicated on the offensive end than we were necessarily when I was at Xavier. We ran more set plays. We're a little bit more open, which is, again, a fun way to play. It's easy to recruit to.
Sure. I go back to watching these Miami games this year and seeing Millett Hall fill up as the season goes on and more and more fans coming back here. And this is such a historical building. And I do want to ask you in a minute about what maybe a new arena looks like, but to talk for a second about Millett Hall and the history here and some of the players that have come through this, Wally Zerby, I could go down the list, but some of the players that have come through this program, and to see this program come back to life this season, a nationally televised game. That was a Friday night on CBS Sports Network. Ton of fun to watch. That was a Kent State game, right?
Yeah.
So you look at all of that and what you're building here. It has to feel really good to see not just the players on the court embrace their message, but the fan base come back and fill this building.
Yeah, it's a process. Paul, I took a picture of our first game here against Evansville, and I'll never forget. I was like, man, it was empty. You could hear literally a pin drop. We had no students. It was as sparse of a crowd as I've ever seen in college basketball. And I was just like, man, this is going to be a major, major rebuild, right? Like a little bit more than I probably had thought at first. And that can be overwhelming, right? Because winning helps, right? Winning really matters, but marketing, there's just so many different things that it goes into getting people back on the bandwagon here. Because it's been a long time. And just had to re-energize the space and wake it up a little bit. Our marketing department's been awesome. They've done a great job. Obviously, winning helps. And then to see kind of how our crowds changed throughout the season this year, all of a sudden at the end, it was like, man, it became a tough place to play.
Yeah.
And that matters. And when you talk about 15 home game winning streak, well, the students got to be the pulse of our arena. They have to be. And now all of a sudden we're getting students back to games, and man, it goes a long way.
So the new arena, I know there's been a lot of discussion. I'm not sure where the vote is. I know there were a couple of locations on campus that you were deciding between. There was a vote. So what's the update on the new arena?
Yeah, so I think the location was decided as Cook Field, where the rec kind of fields are right now. And essentially, I think that what they would do is replace the rec fields, go here where Millett is, where we are right now, right? And we'd go over there. It's needed. I mean, Paul, like it's needed. Like this place, it's a little bit like I said earlier when you decide, hey, whether you're going to redo a house or you're just going to tear it down and start over, right? A lot of times it's cheaper just to start over, right? And just tear the thing down and just start from ground zero. So and I think not only would it help our men's basketball program and women's basketball, volleyball, But I think it could also be a hub for students, right? It's going to be much more than just an athletic facilities. It could be for graduation, for concerts. It could be on campus. So it could do a lot of different things. And I think it would help the university. It'd help Oxford as well, maybe even get some more business, which would be exciting as well.
You look at arenas, I'm trying to think, Baylor comes to mind, even to the professional level. A lot of arenas or new builds are downsizing.
Yes.
Because the fans are, with so much content available, fans are starting to stay home and watch games because they can turn on YouTube TV and have a quad box as opposed to actually going to the game. But I think the benefit of that is now when you're starting to see these smaller, more intimate arenas, one, the sound is better because everybody's on top of the court or on top of the field, whatever. It's a louder environment because it's packed into a smaller building. But two, for you, it has to be a much better home court advantage. And when you look at a place like Millett Hall, where you could put 6,000 people in here, which would be a great crowd if you go over to a new arena that's 6,000 or 8,000.
Yep.
You're in here at 6,000 and you're a little over half filled. Yeah. And you're taking a picture going, okay, we still got work here. Yeah. And we weren't near there. We're about 500 people by game one. But to your point, I think the size of the arena is incredibly important. You want to be above the thresholds where you can get concerts and get people in, but you also have to, you want it to be a great environment for our students and whatnot and be an experience, right? Like here, to your point, this seats almost 10,000, I believe. It's way too big, and it's really spread out. And it wasn't built just for basketball, obviously. This was a multi-purpose facility, a little bit like what Fifth Third was there for a long time over at UC, right? Yep.
It was kind of an odd layout and stuff, but it wasn't necessarily a basketball arena. The new arenas, to your point, they're tighter, they're more on top of you, they're more intimate, they're louder, they give you the environment. Lighting's extremely important here in Millett. It's kind of dark, so it would be a huge deal, I think, not only for our men's basketball program and women's basketball and volleyball, but just Miami in general would be a huge upgrade. Yeah,
you look at the renovations. Obviously, Fifth Third was completed 7 or 8 years ago. Centos has undergone a ton of turnover, now going on 25 years old there. And you're looking at these facilities in this area. The huge one has obviously been the downtown arena in Cincinnati, and Heritage Bank Centers leaves a lot to be desired.
Yeah.
But you come up the road a little bit north here, you're out of the city, and you're a beautiful college town, and you give the opportunity to, this school, you talk about concerts, you talk about any of that. It really does open the door for a lot of possibilities to showcase this place.
It does. It's a unique place. It really is. When I think of college, this is what I think of.
Sure.
When you think of college, it's safe. There's tons of students. There's energy. Everything's immaculate around here. Everything's beautiful. They're always doing all the landscaping. Sometimes I'll be driving in at 5 a.m. They're doing landscaping at 5:30 a.m. They're out there working on the lawn to make sure every blade of grass is exactly perfect. So again, I think it would just add to what this place already is, Miami. It just continue to add to it, make it even better.
Deer Park Roofing has been providing elite service for homes and businesses since 1996 and leads the industry in professionalism, quality, and responsiveness. So whether your needs are residential or commercial, Deer Park can handle any job and ensure it's done right. Deer Park's motto is, protect what's important. And what's important to you is important to Deer Park Roofing. Visit deerparkroofing.com today. deerparkroofing.com.
What makes us human? Humanity is found in the actions that redefine care. Actions that we at TriHealth take every day. By seeing those who feel invisible, hearing needs that have been ignored, TriHealth is healing the body and the human spirit, so all can know and live a better life.
To get back to basketball here, at the end of this past season, I know I wanted to wrap up the season, but there's one thing I did want to ask you about because I'm interested as a coach. This might be a sore subject, but Miami didn't make the NIT. Mm-hmm. The NIT has undergone a ton of change in the last couple of seasons. To me, it would seem to benefit a school like Miami to be able to play in the NIT under the changes that I know they're prioritizing different schools. You have the Crown, you have the NIT now. NIT's not at MSG. It's at Hinkle, or it goes to Vegas. They're trying to change it all over. But I was stunned that you all were not in the NIT this year.
Yeah.
I guess I don't really have a question here. I'm more leaving the door open for you to vent.
Oh man.
But
yeah, I think the process was very lazy. Listen, I think Kent State should have been in it. All right. We beat them 3 times, though.
Yeah.
We beat them at their place, at our place, and on a neutral.
Yeah.
Now, and this is, they got to get rid of the net. The net is I think is awful.
Interesting. Why do you say that?
Because I think it's all, and a lot of these metrics are nowadays. Everybody plays towards we can't get a game. We can't get any games. Nobody will play us because we're supposed to be really good next year, so nobody wants to play. Teams are supposed to play the teams that you've never heard of and go beat them by 40, and that helps your net. So that's what all the Big East coaches and the Big Ten coaches and the SEC, that's what they're all told to do, is go play the worst teams possible and just go beat them by 1 million. And do fans like that? No. Does that help them become a better team? Absolutely not. But they get rewarded for that. Versus if you play a Miami or a Akron or a whoever, Toledo, it's going to be a good game. Those are good teams, really good teams. Maybe a hard game. And it's going to be a little closer. Well, you get punished for playing us via the net. Because unless you just absolutely drill us, which is probably less likely than versus some of those other teams. So I just think the net is, I think they got to make, there's a lot of good to it, but there's a lot of bad to it as well, if I'm being honest, especially at the mid-major level. It makes it almost dang near impossible to schedule. We can't get games, any good games that we want. It's hard. It's hard.
Well, so I talked to Darren Horn on the last episode of the Rebound Rundown. We were talking about a lot of this where the net and all of this is not allowing coaches at this mid-major level where you're in the 150 to 200 range of Ken Pom. It's becoming so hard to schedule. He was telling me about Greg Campy up at Oakland, where Oakland beats Xavier, Oakland beats Kentucky, and now all of a sudden Greg's going, hey, who can we play?
Yeah.
And then you switch it over to, this year, calendar turns, trying to build a schedule. Yeah. Sorry, we're not going to play Oakland this year.
Yeah.
Sorry, we're not going to play Miami this year. You guys, right on the cusp of the NCAA tournament, we don't need that risk.
It's hard. There was a line as long from Oxford all the way to Cincinnati to play us my first 2 years. Now nobody will take our call. And it's just hard. And they look at all these analytical sites, right? And there's great data out there. Right? I think it's called Bartovic.
Bartovic.
Okay,
yep.
And I may mess up the name. So
no, you're right on. You're right on. You got it.
We're like 100.
Yep.
We're right at 100. So he predicts that we're going to be a really, really good team. So nobody will play us. So everybody keeps referencing that. And hey, we take a lot of threes, and and those are the teams that can. It's listen, just play the game. Who cares? For us, non-conference doesn't matter. We're in a 1-bid league. Now, at a Xavier or Cincinnati or Ohio State, every game matters. You best believe that. I mean, they have to win and they have to play towards the net because that could be the difference between you getting in and not getting in, right? So I get it. But it's just I wish they would change some of the metrics to make this thing a little bit easier, especially in today's landscape, Paul, where you have rev share and how important all that is. Why are we hopping on planes, traveling to go play all these crazy games when we can just drive everywhere? Saves money. More for rev share for a lot of these schools that need it, right? So I just think we all have to look at what we're doing and reevaluate it a little bit. And I think there needs to be some adjustments made. But it starts with the net, and I think that's why. So I know why they don't play those games, but I think there needs to be some adjustments made.
Do you have anything that comes to mind as a coach that you think they could do to the net, or is this just something that you feel it needs change, but you're willing to listen, or do you think, no, Paul, I know they should do this?
I don't necessarily have the answer, and it's a million. Anybody can pick out a problem, right?
Sure.
But I do think, again, I think you got to get back to having good games being played in non-conference.
Yeah.
I I think it makes college basketball better for fans. They want to see that as well. I don't know. Again, it's easy for me to say that right now because we're in that position. But I think that would help college basketball. Help your team get better.
Yeah.
I love coaches that'll play anybody anywhere. It's like, let's just play. Who cares? If you're not good enough, you're not good enough. If you're good enough, the cream will always rise to the top.
At Payroll Partners, you're not just a number. We provide a best-in-class HR and payroll experience that's built on award-winning technology and live support customer service with a dedicated payroll specialist who's just a phone call away. You shouldn't have to choose between technology and customer service. At Payroll Partners, you get both. Locally owned and operated, visit payrollpartners.net today. That's payrollpartners.net.
It was a beautiful day in Cincinnati. James looked out the window and saw Bud scoping out competition, where James saw none. James, in the spirit of Pella hospitality, invited him in. Bud hoped to find a flaw. Maybe it was in the finish, or the quality, or selection, but he found none. Get your full service, delivery, removal, and installation all included. Call Pella now.
Welcome back to the Rebound Rundown, joined up here in Oxford, Ohio by the head coach of the Miami RedHawks, Travis Steele. Make sure if you're watching this on YouTube, you go down, you hit the subscribe button and subscribe where you're listening in audio form. If you're listening in the car right now or wherever you are, make sure you go subscribe. Travis, you were just talking before the break about the rev share and all of these intricacies that are happening in college basketball right now. And that was something I had down. The House settlement has been approved. And now all these schools are trying to figure out, how do we divvy up money? How do we prioritize? What do we prioritize? Where do we give our money? All of this. How does it affect Miami, and how are you approaching it?
Yeah, you always try to forecast things. One of the reasons I took this job 3 years ago was I didn't think NIL would get to this level. Boy, was that wrong. I was really, really wrong. And I think there's a lot of coaches that are out there that are complaining about it all now. And it's, I think we all have to kind of look in the mirror, though, and say that we kind of created this. What NIL was intended for,
sure,
and what it became are two very, very different things, right? And not many, you look at even like in the NBA, there's Adidas, I don't know how many guys they sponsor or whatever, they have shoes. I mean, there's only a select few. The role players in the NBA, don't have NIL deals, right? So that's what it was intended for. And then we've kind of created it into everybody's trying to figure out ways around it. And how do you get money to kids and you're forming these collectives and these contracts that aren't really real. They're not like, they don't really do anything. Because you're not, again, unless you're Cooper Flagg, right? Cooper Flagg's going to have real NIL money. Like Zion Williamson would have had real NIL money. All these other guys, absolutely not. So it's that we've created this, college coaches have. I think that's first and foremost. So now it's good. I do think it's a good thing that we're getting a rev share. All right. I don't know how much it'll honestly change it right now, in my opinion, at least initially. But I think, as government hopefully continues to wrap their arms around it, hopefully there'll be more parameters and more guardrails, because right now there's not. And it's the wild, wild west. And it affects us in a big way here. We were pretty fortunate this past year of retaining the players that we were able to retain. But you're going to lose some. It's just kind of the inevitable in today's world, in today's landscape. It's going to happen. But, I don't want anybody to be here at Miami because of rev share, but I don't want anybody not to be here because we don't have something set up for us, if that makes sense.
Sure.
I'm still holding on to the hope that it can still be more transformational than just transactional. It's why I do what I do. It's why I coach. Because if it ever honestly goes to the other direction, I don't know how much longer I'd be doing coaching.
Really?
Yeah. It's just, it's different. And listen, we have it great here. Well, our guys, we have great fits here. We have guys that want to be here. I tell everybody, I'm not getting into a bidding war or any of that stuff. I'm not doing that. We are who we are. And if you don't like it, then go somewhere else. But we try to treat our guys very fairly and try to do the best that we can here at Miami. to make sure that they are taken care of.
So when you go to a recruiting event, maybe it's a high school recruiting event, whatever it is, and you're talking to other coaches and you have the opportunity to catch up with, hey, how'd your off season go? Hey, how'd your off season go? And you start to get a sense, start to get a vibe of, man, we went through this. And then the next coach says the same thing. The next coach says the same thing. Are you getting a general sense of frustration? Do you think coaches were able to navigate this? Because this offseason more than others felt insane.
Yeah.
At least from the outside. But I'm not on the inside of what you all are doing at events and talking.
Yeah, I think there's more and more agents out there now than there were 2 years ago.
Do you think that's a good thing?
Oh, man, that's a loaded question. I don't know. Because I don't know if a lot of these guys, some of them aren't agents. They call themselves agents, but they're not really an agent. They're just trying to take advantage of some of these kids. Now, there's some good ones out there too. I'm not going to listen. There's some legit agents out there that do a great job. And but it's hard. It's hard to navigate. It's hard. It's you're trying to fly the plane midair, and you're trying to figure out how to land it, right? And it's hard. It really is. But rather than complaining, you just got to lean into it. And you got to say, well, how can I navigate this the best? I do think retention is number one. If you look specifically at the mid-major roster construction, I think retention is numero uno, and it isn't even close. All right, and then you go out and you kind of fill a hole if you need to with a transfer. But there's some of my friends that I've talked to. I mean, it's like, hey, they're losing over half the roster. Like 9 out of 10 guys or something. I'm like, holy cow. They got to go get 10 or 11 guys in the portal. And we can't do that here. We're not able to do that academically here. Get guys in to be eligible. We can't even do that. But I think some people are worn down. There's no doubt about it. I mean, you talk about burnout.
Yeah.
I mean, the spring, it's like, so we lost against Akron, right? Heartbreaker, man. Tough one. I mean, we led for 39 minutes and 39 minutes and 50, whatever it was, 55 seconds of the game. And then hard loss. Go in the locker room, our guys are crushed. A lot of tears. It was really hard. Reminded me, honestly, of the Xavier year where we lost to Wisconsin in the NCAA tournament. If you remember that round of 32 game in St. Louis, and that pain is just excruciating the way it happened, right? Monday, we got to have individual player meetings. Within 48 hours of how our season ended, man, we got to get right to it. I mean, we got to figure out who's in, who's out, what are guys thinking, and it's like, man, used to be, your spring would be, hey, let's take a deep breath. Let's have to wait 2 weeks. We'll have player meetings after that. Let's get my thoughts really all very, very organized. Let's, get guys better in the gym, develop them. You see freshmen go to sophomores, man, how big a jumps they make sophomores to juniors. And now it's like, hey man, you got to find out who's on board and who's not. It's a hard process. It's honestly the worst process of the year, part of the year, but you got to lean into it.
Yeah. And that's exactly, again, I go back to what Darren was saying on the last episode about those player meetings anymore are not just, hey, here's our plan for you for next season, your off-season plan. It's, are you on this roster next year? Do you want to come back and play for me next year?
Yeah. I mean, it's awkward. So my first meeting was with Peter Suter. He was first team all-league. He was the best player in our league, in my opinion. He better be preseason player of the year in our league. He sat down, Paul, and he said, so, I have all these notes. I'm like, hey, listen, this is how I thought the season went. This is what we're going to do for you moving forward, everything. And he said, hey, coach, I just want to let you know that I'm not going anywhere, that I'm all in. And he said, I love it here. I've never played better in my life. He said, why would I leave? And I said, really? Hey, well, let's get you to sign something right now. Says you're gonna do it. No, but he loves his teammates. He loves the culture. So I still think that stuff really does matter. Like your experience, your teammates, the bonds, the relationships, the culture, winning. Obviously, we had a really good year. He played really well. He sees a plan of development for him. That tells me that it's not just transactional.
Yeah.
And I want Peter to get his fair share, though, too. He deserves it. He's a tremendous player. And he does everything that I ask. Everything. He's an incredible teammate. When your best player is your best teammate, everything's easy.
Yep.
And so, but he did that on our meeting, and I was just like, wow, this is awesome. But that got us off to a great start just with our player meetings, thank God.
So I think that's a great transition into talking about next year's roster, because you only went to the portal for one player. You're bringing in 5 freshmen. You get back Brant Byers, pronounce that right?
Yes.
Brant Byers, MAC Freshman of the Year.
Yep.
Peter Suter, first team All-MAC.
Yep.
So 2 studs right there that you get back. You did lose 3, but Cam Kraft went to Georgia Tech, Reese Potter went to Kentucky, Makai Cooper went to Lindenwood. You lost 3 players in the portal, but you bring in 5 freshmen. You get back 2 really talented players, and then Almar Atlason.
Yes. Yep.
Got that one too. 2 years at Bradley.
You're pretty good at this, Paul.
I'm trying my best. 2 years at Bradley, comes here to Miami. What was your plan for roster construction and putting those pieces together, emphasizing retention, building from freshmen, clearly with 5, but also bringing guys back?
Yeah, I think so. This is what we've done, and I'm not saying this is the answer because I don't have all the answers. Trust me, I'm not that smart. For me, I like to deal with people that I know. Right, transfer portal. You're recruiting a guy in 1 week, 2 weeks. And it'd be like dating Amanda. Like I dated Amanda for probably about 3 or 4 years before I proposed to her. I'm not asking somebody to marry me that I've just met for the first time. Just not. We knew Peter Suter before we brought him in our program. We knew Cam Kraft. We knew Antoine Woolfolk. We knew Morgan Safford. All the guys that we brought in have been very intentional. Because anybody can look at a stat sheet and say, well, hey, this guy averaged 14 a game at Cal Baptist. He shot 39 from 3. But like, you don't know anything about him. Nothing. And you're telling me you're going to get to know a person in 1 week to 2 weeks, and you're going to bring them into your family, into your house. That is really hard to do. So we only deal with people that we know and trust, because the biggest thing that I have to protect is our culture. We have the best culture in our league, I'd say, by a mile, and I don't think it's even close. And I got to protect that at all costs. So I involve our players a lot in the recruitment as well when we bring in a transfer guy, because transfer portal guys are going to think they're coming in to play a lot or a little. What do you think?
I would say probably they want to see some minutes, Coach.
They want to see some minutes. You better only recruit the transfer portal based on need. If you're starting to build depth out of the portal, you're going to have a million problems. A million. And I'd rather have a guy know on the front end. Like Dan Lewis came here last year, and I told him he wasn't going to play. I said, more than likely he ain't going to play this year, but I need your leadership. We need a voice. He's tough. He's competitive. I trusted him. And he came still. And listen, was it hard for him not to play? Absolutely. But like, he knew the deal going into it. So I think having those really transparent conversations with guys on the front end really helps. But that trust piece is so important to me, Paul. That's why, we brought in Almar. We only brought in 1 guy, which most schools are bringing in, 8, 9, 10 guys, out of the portal. They have to. You have to field a team. But we were lucky to be able to retain the guys. And I wanted to bring in versatility, because I want interchangeable guys that can play and that can shoot, that can think, that can play multiple spots, because it allows me to play a lot of different lineups.
Yeah, and I think for fans too, it has to help for retention, right? You talk about getting fans into this building, and now all of a sudden next year they're going to see a roster where they see some familiar faces and they get to know some of these players. They get to understand what the culture is. You had a really great year. You're going to build on that.
Yeah, it's like you see Evan Ipsaro go from Covcath kid, local guy.
Which I got to say, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you.
You're good.
I broadcasted for Covcath for 4 or 5 seasons. I had Evan through his high school career. He was so talented at Covcath. Watching him here now, so talented.
Yeah.
So talented.
Yep. He was my first offer when I got here. I knew exactly what I wanted. He's a winner. He's tough. But you see Evan go from freshman to sophomore to junior. Ian Elmer, Cincinnati Taft kid, really talented, go from freshman to sophomore to now a junior. It's fun as a fan to be able to see that growth, and a familiar face, to your point. Something you can be attached to a little bit more and be a little bit more excited about. So we got a lot of versatility on our roster, which I'm extremely excited about, because we can play different lineups together.
What do you think you're most excited about heading into next season, where, you have such a good offensive season this year, but really, when I was looking the other night, putting all this together of looking at your Ken Palm numbers and watching not just offensively, but defensively too, watching everything take that steady jump year over year. And, we've talked a lot about the offense, but I don't want to leave the defense behind either, because that made significant strides as well. Do you feel like as a team, and I know your first practice is tomorrow, but do you feel like as a team, what you've put together, you're just going to keep building forward?
I do. I love I think it starts with where I'm probably most excited about our team, Paul. We got great leadership. Player-led teams are way better than coach-led teams. Like Evan Ipsaro knows what we're about. He was a captain last year as a sophomore, voted by his teammates. Peter Suter was voted as a captain last year. He knows what we're about, man. Like those guys will be able to show all our freshmen, our Almar Atlason, who's coming into our program, who comes from a really good program, Bradley. Brian Wardle does a great job. They win every year, 25, 26 games. Those guys will be able to show those guys what we do, who we are, what is our DNA. I think we'll take a jump offensively. I really do. We got to lower that turnover percentage by about 0.6%. And if we get our offensive rebounding percentage 2.5% percentage points better, we'll be a top 50 offensive team in the country. And then I think on the defensive end, I think we'll continue to grow it. We were much better last year than we were the previous years. Because again, to win this league, you have to be top 3 in both defense and offense. If you look at all the data from like the last 10 years, that's what I did. I looked at, well, how is Kent State and Akron, how are they winning the MAC tournament quite often? Let's put it that way. And because you're going to have an off night in the MAC tournament. We got to win 3 games in 3 days. And odds are we're not going to shoot well in one of those games. So how are we going to win that game? That's what our season comes down to. It's Cleveland, 3 games, 3 days. And it's all about the journey, and we know that. But part of our journey that we want is the NCAA tournament, right? So how do we win 3 games in 3 days and building our team around that?
You have any nuggets you're willing to drop on the non-conference schedule?
Man, other than it's been very difficult, it's a work in progress.
Okay.
I've never been in this position. I mean, it's where we are here in the summer, and we probably need 7 games still.
Really?
Oh yeah. We can't get teams. It's been really hard.
It's been that hard.
It's been that
I know we spent 10 minutes talking about how hard it was, but 7 games on June 17th.
Yeah, it's not good. It's not good. So we're really focused on that, and hopefully I think some things will start to fall. I mean, people have to play at some point.
Yeah.
Right? There's only you have to play, so we'll figure it out.
Before we wrap up here, first off, again, I want to thank you a lot for sitting down here and catching up on a lot of these topics because, one, getting to hear so much positivity about this program and how well you guys did this year. It's encouraging for the local college basketball scene where you think about so many programs within a 2-hour drive of Cincinnati. There's a lot of Division I basketball here.
There is.
So my question for you is, you had a ton of experience, and like I said, from Indiana to Xavier to now here. You're a Midwest guy, recruiting, everything else. How much does that help you being here?
I'd say a lot. Obviously, spent a lot of time in Cincinnati. Did my years at Xavier, Indiana. I was at Ohio State. We predominantly recruit Ohio, Indiana, Kentucky, Illinois, a little bit of Michigan. That's really it. We kind of recruit our breadbasket. And there's good enough players within a 5-hour radius of Oxford to where we can win championships. And not only win championships, but I think it's like I told David Sale when I took the job, man, my goal is not only win the MAC, but can we make this thing a top 25 program in the country? I think you got to think big because we can do it here. There's a lot of things that are in place that other schools don't have, that from an academic perspective, campus, need the facility, obviously, stuff like that. But man, I think we're really trending in the right direction. And you mentioned it as a college basketball fan, it doesn't get much better than living around this area. I mean, it's incredible, whether it's NKU, you mentioned Darren Horn earlier, whether it's Xavier, Cincinnati, you got Ohio State right up the road, Dayton, Wright State. I mean, it's incredible.
Then you go a little south, you got Pat Kelsey, you got Mark Pope now.
Louisville, Kentucky. Yeah. I mean, you got great programs, great coaches, great players. This is the best area of the country, in my opinion, for college basketball.
I fully agree. Now last question here for you. Not college basketball related. Right before we went on the air, you were talking about maybe you're not the best golfer. Maybe you leave a little bit to be desired on the links.
A lot to be desired.
All right. So I won't hammer you there. What do you like to do when you have some downtime?
You know what? Your priorities change when you have kids.
How are they doing?
They're doing great.
Good.
Yeah. So I work out Winston a lot. I coach him, AAU.
How old is he now?
He is going to be going into 7th grade. Which is crazy, right? So I spend, honestly, all my time outside of here goes all to my kids and Amanda. Like, that's it. I don't really have, if I told Amanda, hey, listen, on every Saturday, I'm going to go play golf for 4.5 hours, she would look at me like I had 10 heads, like she'd be like, well, what are you talking about? Because I'm already gone enough, right?
Yeah.
Like traveling around doing this. So I'd say just honestly spending a lot of time with the family. That's what we do.
That's great. Well, Travis, again, thank you so much for taking some time to sit down here today. It's great to catch up with you. And I'm looking forward to getting back up here for a game this season and to see you guys in action, because it looks like on paper this team should be fun to watch.
Absolutely. We're excited as well. Looking forward to having you up.
Yeah. Thanks, Travis. This has been another episode of the Rebound Rundown. Thanks to all of you for watching and listening. As always, we're doing a little Midwest tour here of some programs around the Cincinnati, the Ohio, Indiana, Kentucky area. So make sure you stick around and follow that as the summer goes along. A lot more content coming for you on the Rebound Rundown. Make sure you subscribe, and we'll talk to you next time on the Rebound Rundown.